When I took I guess a 6-week car trip shortly after I was fired, I stopped in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I'm not at all religious. I don't believe in God, but I like seeing old buildings and old churches. And I went into a Catholic church, and they were selling things, and they have a magnet, which is on our refrigerator, and it said, "The truth shall set you free." Living my truth has set me free. For those people who live their truth openly and honestly, it sets us free. There's nothing like that freedom. I've known since I was maybe 3 or 4 that I was different in that I began cross-dressing at a very young age. And I didn't think anything about it. That's just who I was. But by the time I got to the 7th grade, I knew I was different. And I went to the library to see if I could figure out something about what was going on. And I did find some information, and that said for people who were identified male at birth, if you didn't hate your penis, then you were what was called at the time a transvestite. Commonly today it's transgender or cross-dresser. If you hated your penis, you were called transsexual. Well, I didn't hate my penis. So I went about living my life as a cross-dresser. The only problem is, it never really worked for me. I'd cross-dress when I had opportunities, when I was traveling out of town, or that kind of thing, but I never felt right. I'm 77, soon to be 78. I was only child, born to working class parents. Got married the first time just out of high school. Have 2 wonderful and amazing daughters. One is 53, the other's 55. Went back to school after a couple of years of being married. Got my master's in sanitary engineering. Worked for about 10 years as a design engineer, designing wastewater treatment plants, and then ended up working for about 30 years as a construction manager for a construction company in Tacoma. And finally, I was about 60. I told my second wife that there was a conference in Port Angeles for transgender people, and I was going to go to it. She wasn't very happy, but I went anyway. It was something I felt I really needed to do because I was feeling desperate by then. This is something that always just never felt right. I was always so bothered. I was never at peace. And I went to the conference. First time I'd ever done anything like that. And I met and talked with other people similar to myself, including a couple of women who were transsexual. Well, that's nice. That doesn't apply to me. I've been a long-time cyclist, and one day in the middle of the Esprit conference, I rode my bike up to Hurricane Ridge. And when I'm riding, I always think a lot. And I realized while I was riding that I felt really good. I didn't understand. And then it dawned on me. The light went on. It wasn't a dim light. It was a very bright light. I'm not just transgender. I'm transsexual. That's what my issue has been all along. That's why living as a cross-dresser never worked. I was not being authentic. The light showed me the way. It lit the path for my future. Finished out the conference, went home, and the first thing I told my wife is, I'm transsexual. I'm going to transition. And she was upset. I don't think she was really surprised, but I did. I began my transition then. September 9th, 2008, I had my genital surgery. And I'll never forget waking up. I asked the nurse, was it successful? Because my fear was it wouldn't be successful. And she said yes. And I think I made her say yes 3 times. But I was so happy and so relieved. And I've never looked back. But before I actually came out to everybody, I had told Tom and several other friends what I was going to do. And Tom was one of 2 people that said, well, I don't really understand, but I hope you will be happy. 2 people. Work was a different story. People were almost unanimously very uncomfortable. They didn't know how to quite handle the process at work. They'd called an office meeting and people in charge said they didn't know how to handle it, and I said, let me take care of it. And that's what I did. I led the meeting, explained to people who I was, what I discovered, and that I was going to transition, and that come Monday I'd be coming to work and be known as Cheryl forever after. And some people got up and left in the middle of the meeting. A couple of people hugged me afterwards. And yeah, I just went on about my business, living my life as Cheryl. It took about 6 months and my employer fired me. Big surprise, not. They gave me the opportunity to resign, and I said, no, I'm not going to make this easy for you. And so they fired me on the spot. What was important to me is to live my life authentically. I was done pretending to be someone that I am not. I'm Cheryl, a woman who happens to be transgender. And if you're not comfortable with that, I understand, but not my problem.